You're about to listen to an excerpt of Secret City Geek Lab broadcast on KTSTFM.com every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. For more news, reviews, and interviews from the world of geek, visit the Geek Lab at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/secretcity. Enjoy the show. In theaters this weekend, it's the 50th anniversary of the Beatles classic movie A Hard Day's Night. And it's currently playing at Cinefamily in Los Angeles. It's also playing in Santa Monica and Pasadena. There's a great chance to go out and see this film as you have never seen it before, especially if you're older than me. You may have seen it actually in the theater, but if you're my age and younger, you've never seen this in the theater. And here's a chance to do that. The 50th anniversary of A Hard Day's Night has been restored digitally, and the sound has been upgraded to a 5.1 surround sound. Watching A Hard Day's Night, one cannot help but remember that the Beatles were the original boy band of the 60s. Long before Bieber and One Direction, the Beatles were the ones the girls were going gaga for. The only difference is that they played classic rock and roll and not this pop junk that you hear today. And there's also a level of depth that came from the music and words. Now, looking beyond the quirky story and the wacky on-screen antics of A Hard Day's Night, you can almost consider the movie a documentary, a moment in the life and the time of the life of the Beatles. Today, our memories of the Beatles are of them breaking up, the tragic end of John Lennon, the passing of George Harrison, and just knowing that the Beatles will never ever get back together again. But when watching A Hard Day's Night, it was as if you're transported back in time to a time in which the four lads, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, were a cohesive team. They were the band. They were united together, playing music that would become classics in American and British rock history. Alan Owen's story in A Hard Day's Night is hardly inspired. It's reminiscent of maybe a Monkees television episode where the boys go on a wacky adventure strewn with jokes and gags. And many of the jokes will make you laugh, but others will be lost because of time, because of culture. But the story and jokes only serve as a means to move the audience from one song to the other. And these songs are, in fact, amazing. Let's see, John, Paul, George, and Ringo in the story hop a train in order to make a TV appearance in London. The movie starts with a mob of screaming fans, mostly girls, chasing the boys to the train station under the soundtrack of the Beatles hit A Hard Day's Night. Along the way, we're introduced to various over-the-top characters, including Paul's grandfather, played by Wilfred Bramble. Paul calls his grandfather in this movie a villain and always up to trouble, and he's always causing antics. And then also there's the manager Norm and his handler Shake. But throughout the film, the boys are constantly trying to escape their manager, whether it's to attend a party, find their missing grandfather, or to impress girls. And under each adventure dictates its own Beatles song as its soundtrack. Now, the story is hardly a reason to see A Hard Day's Night. The reason you want to see this is because, one, the print has been restored. When you go to the movie theater, you're going to see the movie as if it were shown in the 1960s. Yes, they cleaned it up. They got rid of pops and scratches and dirt and dust. But at the same time, they've also restored it to the original look and feel of that the first presentation. The movie was shot in 35mm, and then when projected on a large screen, because of the smallness of the film, you feel that graininess that gives it a really good black and white documentary feel. Also, the soundtrack has been restored. Now, for A Hard Day's Night, there are two basic soundtracks. The first is the music soundtrack, and the second is the the dialogue and the rest of the movie, the ambient sounds, the sound effects, anything that's not related to the actual song being played. Now, they cleaned up both soundtracks as much as they could. In fact, what they've done is, instead of playing the music off of the soundtrack of the actual film that they used to base this print off of, they went to the actual recordings of the original music for this movie. And so they were able to get to those master reels and master tapes and then create a 5.1 surround sound experience with that. And the only problem really is that the dialogue is, there's a lot of ambient noise around the dialogue. It's a little bit muffled. It's not perfect, crisp dialogue. And then you play on top of that these really clean tracks of music. It's almost a little bit disconcerting. It's hard to juxtapose the two. But you are getting the actual performances for the movie, and you're getting a really clean look and feel to this film. So definitely go out, and if you have a chance, go to Cinefamily, go to a local theater. It's playing in 100 theaters across the country. Also, if you're not going to be able to do that, Hard Day's Night, the new restored version, is available on DVD and Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection. This was a production of Secret City Geek Lab on KTSTFM.com. We broadcast every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Visit the Geek Lab at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/secretcity.